What's going on, guys? Here I'm going to show you some of the basics of Texas rigging. So, just for the sake of the video, I'm going to use these lizards, 6-inch lizards from Zoom in a tomato color just so you guys can see it. What I got here is a basic swim bait hook. It's not weighted, but I do have a spring on there. It's the Bait Keeper spring, if you guys can see that. This is a 3/0. And then we have a wide gap worm hook right here. That is also a 3/0. We have some bobber stops for pegging. This is your worm weight right here. A bullet weight worm weight. That's I believe it's like a 1/4 ounce. We have some glass beads right here, 2 different colors, black and clear. And there's a skirt right here. These are normally called punch skirts. Alright, I'm going to show you the weightless way I would rig this first, and I would do it on basically a swim hook, swim bait hook. So what you do is you take the spring and you put it in the nose of your bait. And you just keep twisting till it goes all the way in. Now they make smaller springs, might work better with some baits, but we'll make this one work for this one. Now keep in mind the way you want your bait rigged, okay? So once you get it on there, you want it rigged kind of flat like that, the bottom facing the hook. So we're going to put this on just a little bit more. Just like this. Okay. So find where that hook's got to go through. It's got to go through right there. You want to put your thumb there, kind of line it up. Pinch that end right there because this thing is going to be swiveling around on that hook eye. You don't want that to move. You want it to move as little as possible once you're rigging this. So line it up. Give it a pinch in like this. Try to get it in the center. Put it in there. And you're good to go. Just like that. So you want to try to keep this as straight as possible. Now this is basically semi-weedless. If you want to make it more weedless, you give it a pinch right here. And you just basically skin hook the tip of the hook inside the skin of the bait. And that right there is rigged, Texas rigged, but weightless. I don't suggest putting weights on your line after this just because your weights are going to be hitting the knot a lot, and the knots tend to fail when the weights are hitting them like that. But if you do want to rig it weightless, like a fluke or a swim bait or something like that, or if you want to put a swim bait hook or a weight on the hook right here, you pinch them on, that'll work as well. But that's how I'd rig this one. Now, this is how this is going to work. We'll get some line. If you want to peg it, what you do is you take one of your bobber stops. Let's go with a real bright one here just so you can see it. You put the line through the little hole, if you guys can see that, through the little hole where the bobber stops are. And then you pull the bobber stop off and over the line like that. Pull that up your line. Just get it out of your way. This way, you can peg your weight if you want to. And by pegging, I mean it makes your weight stay stationary, basically up against the bait. So that way, the weight will be up against the nose of the bait, and it'll bring the bait down a lot quicker through the weeds, or down to the bottom a lot quicker like that, where you want it. Some people don't like it pegged. Some people like it pegged. Now, where that bobber stop went over, it's going to create a little crease. Your line is no good right there anymore, so just cut that little piece off. Okay, next what you do is you put your weight on. Now this weight is going to depend on what you want, what you're fishing. If you're fishing some open water, Maybe you want something, you know, deep water. Maybe you want something heavier. If you just want to fish on top of the weed beds and stuff like that, maybe you want something lighter. That's going to be personal preference or based upon basically what you're fishing. So you put your worm weight on. Next. Now let's say you want something that makes a little bit of noise. What I like to use is I like to use glass beads. Clear water, I like to use a clear glass bead, just like this. But if I am fishing muddy water, I will use a black bead, usually to match the weight. If my weights are specific colors, I'll try to find beads to match the weight. But again, if it's clear water, that glass bead will give a little bit of a shimmer of light, flicker of light in the water, and sometimes that attracts a fish. So then you put your glass bead on next for noise. Again, you don't have to do that. That's personal preference. Now let's say you want a skirt on there. Let's say you're punching or something like that, punching through the weeds, and you want to put a punch skirt on. That punch skirt would be next. Okay, now you got your punch skirt on. So basically after that, what you do is you tie your hook on. I like using the trilene knot for this. When I'm using mono or fluorocarbon. When I'm using braid, I use the Palomar knot or Snell knot. That would be the way to go. Okay, now that you got your knot tied, what you're going to do is you're going to put your bait on. Roughly right where that bend is, that's where you want to go down to start off with. Make sure that the bottom of the bait is on the inside of the hook like this. Try to get it as centered as possible. That's usually the best way to rig it. Push it up and over, get past this bend. And a lot of guys like to just get it up and over that knot a little bit. It helps protect that knot. Again, you want to line it up with your thumb like this. Line up where that hook's going to go through. Give it a little pinch. Find the center. Like this. And there you have it. It's Texas rigged. Now again, if you want to make it a little more weedless, give it a pinch right here, push it up towards the nose, and just skin hook the end of that hook just like that. And that way it goes through the weeds a little bit better, and the little tip of the hook's not grabbing the weeds. Okay? So let me show you what this looks like with all the stuff on it. Now, this isn't typically the way that you would probably rig something like this, but this is just basically a diagram of the different things that you can do. Now, you got that glass bead in there, which will either hit the nose of the bait or the punch skirt weight that's in there. That's like a little weight. And it makes that little clacking sound. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Okay, so this is not pegged. Your weight would be moving freely along with the bead. Now, let's peg it. We already have our peg on. Now, with pegging the weight, you can either leave a little bit so you can still make that clacking noise of the glass bead and the weight hitting together, or you can peg it all the way down so it basically doesn't move at all. And normally in this situation, the glass bead wouldn't be there, and nor would the skirt. But the skirt is something optional if you're trying to give your bait a bigger profile, basically. So now it's pegged and it doesn't move at all. So that right there, guys, is basically your basic Texas rigging. You can use this for pretty much any soft plastics that you have. Use your imagination, get out there, and get at them. Don't forget to check out the links at the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and as always, fish on.